Okay, let's get into it. We're looking at the guide for what might be the biggest shift in AI coding we've seen in a while. The release of GPT 5.2 Codex.
It really is a philosophical shift, more than just an upgrade.
And here's the core frustration we're trying to unpack today. For most of us, an AI coding assistant is just, fancy autocomplete.
Right. It's brilliant for single functions, simple scripts.
But the moment the work gets messy, tracing a bug across 5 different modules, running tests, using terminal tools.
That's where they fall apart. They just don't have persistence.
Exactly. So our goal here is to really understand how GPT 5.2 Codex is trying to solve that messy middle by being, well, an agent. We're going to pull out what's different, what the benchmarks actually mean, and how you can use it safely.
To start, we have to get past the marketing. The definition of what this tool is has really changed. GPT 5.2 Codex is a specialized version of GPT 5.2. It's optimized for what they're calling agentic coding.
Agentic coding, so long-running tasks, and I see here a big focus on defensive security workflows.
A huge focus. And the system card highlights things like genuine project scale work. We're talking large refactors, migrations across dozens of files.
Not just writing a single function?
Not at all. And it also calls out better Windows performance, which is a big deal, and much stronger cybersecurity capabilities right out of the box.
So that agentic label is really the heart of it then. It's not just flavor text.
It's the whole point. An agentic model is expected to handle a real engineering loop. It has to read a repo, form a multi-step plan, use tools like a terminal without guessing, and this is the most important part, keep going when the first approach fails.
If it can't handle failure, it's not an agent, it's just a function generator.
Exactly. And the source material is very clear. This is not for general purpose conversation, it's opinionated. It's built to do work.
Okay, so for the engineers listening, the real question is, how does it hold a plan together for that long? And I think this comes down to a feature you really only feel after an hour of use.
Yeah.
Context compaction.
That's the secret sauce. The traditional failure mode is context window drift. The window fills up with logs, error messages, diffs.
And the model just loses the thread. It forgets what it was trying to do in the first place.
It forgets the constraints. So context compaction, it isn't infinite memory. It's smarter. It's intelligent pruning.
How does that work in practice?
It lets the model sustain progress across multiple windows. Instead of keeping every single verbose log, it compresses the noise into high-level summaries. So the core plan, the original request, that stays alive at the top of the context.
That makes perfect sense. And looking at the next section of the guide, the theme of the upgrades seems to be less about a raw intelligence jump and more about reliability under pressure.
Precisely. Which leads right into the first point, project scale competence. It's positioned as being way better at those big code changes, refactors, migrations, while still being token efficient.
So the practical signal here isn't just it writes more code, it's that it makes fewer small mistakes. You know that moment where the AI forgets a constraint you set 3 prompts ago?
Or the whole plan just collapses when one test fails. This is designed to sustain a task over, say, a week, not just a few minutes.
And we have to mention the huge pain point it addresses for enterprise.
Yeah.
Better native Windows behavior.
Yes. So many agents are built on Linux, and they fail by 1,000 paper cuts on a native Windows environment. And Windows is not an edge case in big companies.
Well, what was the fix there?
It's a local sandbox that works robustly across macOS, Linux, and Windows. And crucially, it gives you the option to use the Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL, for that more familiar sandboxing. That compatibility is key for anyone trying to roll this out organization-wide.
Okay, and the third upgrade?
A sharper cybersecurity profile. OpenAI is calling it the most cyber-capable model they've deployed, but, and this nuance is critical, they also state it does not hit their preparedness framework's threshold for high cyber capability.
So it's a measured improvement. There are gains, but also clear limits, which is what you want to see with these tools. Okay, if reliability is a goal, we can't just trust the feature list. We need to see how it operates. And that brings us to the benchmarks that force the agent to actually act, not just talk.
Right, we have to move beyond just code generation metrics. We're looking at 2 really tough tests. First is SWE-Bench Pro, which is about patch-based repo work. The agent has to generate a patch file that the system accepts.
Not just a blob of code.
Exactly.
Right.
And second is Terminal Bench 2.0, which is basically the can you operate like an engineer test? Can you compile, run, debug, adapt, all in the shell? And GPT 5.2 Codex is state-of-the-art on both.
Let's pull out those numbers from the performance summary table, because this shows the real leap.
Okay, on SWE-Bench Pro, they're getting 56.4% accuracy. That's phenomenal. Over half the time, it generates a runnable integrated patch successfully.
And on Terminal Bench,
64.0% accuracy.
64% on Terminal Bench. I mean, that's not 90%. But if you think about how often a human engineer messes up a tricky command or misreads an error, 64% autonomy is a massive leap forward.
It's the headline number. That Terminal Bench score is what turns this from a code writer into an automated software engineering tool. It's closing the loop between writing, testing, and fixing all by itself.
And there's an honest signal in the data, too. It actually underperformed an older model on MLE-Bench 30, which is for data science workflows. Only 10% accuracy.
And that underperformance is actually a key insight. It suggests the model has been very specifically tuned for building and operating software handling repos, terminals, constraints, not for Kaggle-style data science challenges. It has a job, and the tuning reflects that.
Let's move from the numbers to a real-world story, then. Section 4 covers the React vulnerability story. A security researcher, Andrew McPherson, was using the Codex CLI to study the React 2 shell issue.
Right, and the surprising result wasn't just fixing the known bug. The agent, while it was working, surfaced some unexpected behaviors that led McPherson to discover new, responsibly disclosed vulnerabilities.
So the lesson here isn't AI is magic and finds bugs. It's about the workflow that actually worked. Can you walk us through that pattern?
Definitely. He first tried a quick zero-shot analysis. That failed. Then he tried high-volume iterative prompting. That also failed.
The classic approaches.
Success only came when he ran a standard human-driven defensive process. He set up a local environment, he drove hypothesis-based exploration, he fuzzed the system with bad inputs. The agent was just executing the manual steps.
So the agent didn't replace the security researcher's process.
It just did the legwork. The right mental model here is that Codex is a lab assistant with hands. You pair it with human discipline and process, and it compresses weeks of investigation into days.
That level of power is incredible, but that means we absolutely have to talk about the guardrails and the risks, which the system card lays out very clearly.
And it is blunt about it. It treats GPT 5.2 Codex as high risk in the biological and chemical domains. But even though it's their most capable cyber tool, it does not reach high capability in cybersecurity or AI self-improvement.
That's a distinction we need to be really clear on. How can it be the most capable model they have, but not hit that high capability bar? What does that bar even mean?
It comes down to the definition of high. OpenAI defines high cyber capability as the ability to remove human bottlenecks and fundamentally scale cyber operations. We're talking end-to-end attacks against hardened, real-world targets without constant human guidance.
Okay, so that's a very high bar.
It requires three things consistently: discovering advanced zero-day exploits, goal-oriented attack automation, and consistency that scales the damage. And even with great scores on CTFs, the internal cyber range they use for testing, it lacks the mess and monitoring of a real hardened network.
So it's a genius assistant, but it's not an autonomous master thief yet.
Not yet. And that's why it's still trained for model refusal. It's designed to be helpful on legitimate defensive cyber tasks, but it will refuse or de-escalate if you ask it to create malware or steal credentials.
And crucially, they've addressed the don't delete my repo problem.
Yeah.
We've all heard the horror stories of an agent getting a vague command
and running arminash rf on the wrong directory.
Yeah.
Yes. The model has been specifically trained for destructive action avoidance. But you should treat this like improved seatbelts, not invincibility. You still don't approve commands blindly.
Okay, so moving on to how you actually use it.
Yeah.
GPT 5.2 Codex is the engine, but you have to pick the right steering wheel. There are a few different product surfaces.
And your choice really matters for your workflow and safety.
Right. So if you're doing a big refactor or PR first work, you use Codex Cloud. It runs in a remote container. Network is off by default. For local debugging, tight terminal loops, you've got the Codex CLI. That feels like pairing with someone in your shell, but it's sandboxed. For quick interactive edits, there's the IDE extension. And for just review and QA, the PR review bot, which has no command execution at all.
And across all of those, there's one critical security rule from the guide, the network access rule. Default to no internet. And if you absolutely need it, you have to use an allow list for only the trusted domains you need. Broad internet access just opens the door to prompt injection leech credentials. It defeats the entire purpose of the sandbox.
Let's talk about the big community debate. Codex versus Claude code. How do we move past the tribalism and get to a useful, practical comparison?
I think you have to look at it as a split between speed and persistence. Cloud code often feels faster on that first pass. You need a quick script to parse some JSON. Cloud might give you something runnable 15 seconds faster.
So why use Codex then?
Because Codex wins when the job requires persistence. When you need to trace that JSON function across 7 files into a Django model, fix a database query from an error log, and then regenerate migrations, Codex's ability to hold context takes over. It's less like a speedy intern and more like a reliable engineering partner.
That's a great way to put it. So if best AI coding agent means the one that actually finishes the job, then it's in that top tier.
Without a doubt.
Now, for everyone wondering when they can get their hands on this, GPT 5.2 Codex is rolling out through the paid services first. So that's Plus, Pro, Business, and Enterprise plans.
And API access is coming more gradually, right? Often with waitlists for the higher risk use cases.
Exactly. They're also running a trusted access pilot with vetted professionals doing defensive work, which is how they're gathering data to make sure it can be deployed safely.
And to help you get started quickly and safely, especially with the CLI, there's a recommended workflow that comes from the demos.
What's that look like?
The first task template is all about being conservative. First, pick a small, real task, a failing test, a lint error. Second, ask for a plan and the exact commands it wants to run.
So you see everything up front.
Everything. Third, let it implement in small steps and run tests after each step. And fourth, review the diff like it's a teammate's PR. Use conservative approvals until you trust the loop.
That proactive approval is the key to not having a catastrophe.
It is. And when you're prompting, there are 3 methods that work best. Plan first. Demand a full plan and test strategy up front. Diff first. Ask for the smallest safe change, then widen the scope. Or harness first. Require a repro, logs, and a clear done when gate, just like in that React story.
So what does this all add up to for the working engineer? GPT 5.2 Codex isn't trying to be a chat buddy. It's trying to be a reliable tool that survives contact with your actual code base, your terminal, and your constraints, all within some pretty meaningful safety boundaries.
And if you're curious, my advice is to take one annoying medium-sized task from your backlog, a flaky test, a small refactor, and run it through Codex with that plan-first workflow. The best feedback loop is you shipping a real diff. That's how you'll know if it works for you.
A practical and insightful challenge to end on. Thank you for walking us through this analysis of agentic engineering. But before we go, here's a final thought to consider. Given that explicit high-risk label for the biological and chemical domains, how will the industry balance the incredible utility of agentic AI for defensive cybersecurity with the controls needed for those adjacent and far more sensitive fields? We'll leave you to think about that.